Welcome to the Comic Coach podcast with me, Stroud. Very excited. We've just been chatting. I've just realised we've just chatted away for 15 minutes before we even press record. And today I am joined by the very lovely Sophie Creese. Hello, Sophie. I don't know why I felt the need to sing it, but I did. Hello.
Hello. Should I be singing as well? Or no?
If you like.
I can't sing. I can't sing, so I'm not going to do that. But thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. And how are you on this November, slightly grey in London day? How are you? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm feeling very energized this week. I feel like my cup is quite full, so I'm happy about that. And then doing this is just a little icing on the cake.
Something a little bit different chatting away to me. So it's very lovely to have you. And all my regular listeners will know that I like to ask all of my guests 6 questions about impact and your life and leadership. Are you ready?
I am. Let's go.
I love this. This is like that moment, and I think I say this on most episodes, where it's like I suddenly go into Quizmaster mode, and it's like question number 1. Lights have changed. Everything is gone. And question number 1 is, who has had the greatest impact on your life?
My parents.
Oh.
So both of them, but probably more so my poor dad. More so my mum, because of her tenacity and resilience. But yeah, definitely my parents. They've set me up for I think for success, but also just in life in general. But my mum in particular, the reason why I say her in particular, so my mum's got a very interesting story. She was diagnosed with brain tumor when I was very little, and expected that she was going to die. And then they found out it was a very rare tumour and that it was treatable, which was obviously incredible. So she changed quite a bit after she had her first surgery and treatment, etc. And she went from being quite a meek and mild woman to being this very confident, go-getter person. And she pulled me along within that, which was brilliant. So when she was going through treatment, she was in hospital, literally wired up and or dripped up. And she saw these suited and booted people looking around this hospital. And she said, "Oh, who are they?" to the nurse. And they said, "Oh, they're doing an advert for the hospital." And Mum was like, "Oh." Anyway, she's like, "I'm just going to go to the toilet." And she followed them and then was like, "Can I have a part in your advert, please?" And they said, she would never have done this when she was younger, like never, or pre having her brain tumor. And they said, "Yeah, you can. You can audition. Have you got any children? We're looking for a child actor." And she said, "Well, she's not a child actor, but I've got 2 children. I've got a daughter and a son." They said, "Well, we're looking for a girl. She needs to be 4 years old, around about." Mum was like, "Well, she's 7. But she's really small," which is the only time in my childhood that my small stature was helpful. And we got the job. And it was incredible. So she set the standard, I suppose, from that age of, if you want to do something, you just ask and try, and you can only do your best. And I think when I look back on my life, why I've done certain things that I've done, it's definitely down to her going, "We can do whatever you want to do."
Isn't that amazing? What's your mum's name other than Mum for you?
Carolyn.
I mean, isn't it fascinating, that, well, firstly, brilliant that she could get cured, and then isn't it amazing that something that goes on within our brain and in her brain made her shift, which has then had this legacy on you of like, you've just got to go for it, you've just got to go and ask, you've just got to go and do this. And yeah, I mean, what a story, what a story.
And live life with no cringe. She definitely doesn't have any cringe.
I mean, all of us could do a little bit of like, Carolyn, no cringe. I think she's got a whole brand. There's a whole hashtag for your mum that your mum probably doesn't even know that she needs. It's like, 100%. No cringe, Carolyn. That's yeah, no. And I mean, gosh, that's such a useful thing, because it's that permission just to go out and just be. And I think all of us need that so much more, because it's, we all think for all of us, there's our work, isn't there? Of how can we show up as ourselves? How can we be who we are truthfully all the time and own that? And I think when we get to that place where you're close to doing that, and you just rock up and you're like, hey, I'm in, and you're just in a place. I mean, what a beautiful place to be. Well, she sounds awesome, as does your dad, but, and yeah, they're both awesome. Don't worry, Dad. She also loves you. It's okay.
Exactly.
And question number 2, what keeps you motivated in what you do?
There's multiple things there, I think, about what keeps you motivated. So because I work in the gender equality space, there is so much left to achieve in gender equality. I find myself getting frustrated when people think that like equality is at our fingertips, or that we can have it all, or that we can run businesses, we can be in senior leadership positions, we can have kids, we can be great partners, we can be great children, all those things. The reality is we're not even close. So I think because of the fact that lots of people come to me to tell me about their experiences as women linked to their reproductive health, and why what we do at Hayflow and Motherboard is important, that's what keeps me going, is the stories of going, it's I've experienced this. So it's definitely that lived experience that helps. And then I've got 2 kids. I've got a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I've got an older girl and a little boy. So I'm very, very conscious of kind of them going in and growing up and going into the world. So if I look at my daughter, and she's quite a sensitive soul, she's getting more confident, but I was like that when I was little, like very confident in some things, less confident in others, quite sensitive. And she's very much like that as well. And I really want to make sure that she has all these barriers that I face, that I've seen other women face, taken away. So I feel like I've got a very small period of time to achieve that. By the time that she's enters the working world at around 18 or whenever, if she goes to university, I'm very much focused on, I want to have really fixed some fundamental issues in the workplace for women before that time. So that keeps me going. The community keeps me going. And the mission, like it is all about, the mission and what the impact, and wanting to leave this kind of, not necessarily a legacy, because I feel like that's a bit arrogant, but wanting to go, no, I did something that was really important, and I was part of the change, and I was part of the future. And, I hope that I've got a long-lasting career in this space, and that wiggly line will happen, and things will come and go, and businesses may be sold, or things may close down, whatever.
Yeah.
But I really want to get to the point where it feels like I've actually delivered what I set out to deliver. And that is to make workplaces more supportive of women's biology, basically.
I love that. And I think you're right. It's that combination, isn't it, of looking at our children and wanting to make it better than our experience and our elders' experience and things. But then also being part of a community, I think, especially because let's face it, running a business is tough. Running something that is very purpose-driven is tough because, there's all of the different challenges. So I think, and this is why I love finding out what keeps us motivated, because actually all of us get motivated by different things. And I think when you hear different stories, it's like, actually it is. It's the combination of those factors that on the days where it's like, maybe I should just go and sell some pens. The world will always need pens, and it's like, that wouldn't, So, it's a really important thing for me to know that, why do people do what they do, and but more importantly, how do they keep doing it? Because sometimes it's tough, right?
Oh, totally. And because we've just had our first pre-seed funding round close, we're going to be doing a second pre-seed. Which is
little
really
moment
incredible.
To celebrate there, kids. It's such a you're such a like, I'm going to do this. It's like, yes, we just did that, and it's like, yay, let's celebrate. Whoop whoop.
I know. Do you know what? We haven't celebrated really. I've done a little whoop whoop, because it doesn't feel, even though it's been a huge thing. We've had lots of press off the back of it, and it's opened up loads of doors, and it makes people sit up and listen and go, oh, somebody's backed them financially, therefore this must be a real product and a real thing. So that's been great. But during that time and during that process, we had so many doors closed. We had so many pitches that we thought were brilliant that went wrong, that we learned from.
Right.
I look back on that time, and we're going to be going through it again, like imminently in January. We're going to be back on the money trail. It did make me wonder a couple of times: is this worth it? Because the only way that we can deliver true impact is to scale, and we need money for that to be able to access, especially with all different countries and the tech product that we're building. So there has been a number of times recently where I think all three co-founders have just gone, is this really? Because it is so tough and there is so much rejection. I think that I am young and energetic enough for it that I can bounce back very quickly. And rejection is, I'm in the mindset of like, well, the next rejection means that we're one step closer to actually, achieving what we want to achieve. But it is very hard when it's your business, it's your baby, and you know that it's going to deliver all this incredible impact, and people are like, no, not for us. We don't believe this can scale to the level that you believe. We don't think it's that great, actually. And you're like, what? We're talking about, making it equal for women, which is what you've put on your website. It's what you said, that you back female founders or whatever. And it's all, it's definitely been, there's been some hardship to go through as well, but that just makes you stronger, I suppose.
Yeah. And I think thank you for sharing, because I think it's super important that people hear, that the press all looks like lovely and it's like, yeah, we've got our first round, but all of the work that goes into that. And, if I sort of look back on when I was merely a professional actor, and I say merely because it was that thing of that was what I was doing. And every day I would walk into a room and most times I'd be rejected, quite often before I'd even said a word. And there's something about the drama school training that sets you up to go, it's not, and of course it is me. They're looking at whether I was tall, whether I was the right voice, the right look, etc. But actually it's not, because they're looking at the whole bigger picture. And sometimes it's that thing of, especially when it is that thing, when it's yours, and having also gone out for funding and not got it, and you're emotionally really attached to it, it is that thing of how do you, that ability to separate and go, you know what, they wouldn't have been the right fit anyway, and just parking it and then moving on and taking a learning and going, okay, there's nothing I can do that I'm 5'2.5". And yes, I do say I'm a half, even though I'm 46. It's because it's very important to me. I like that half. But I remember I walked into one place, they'd had my CV and they'd looked at me. I had not said a word and they went, no, you're too small. And you walk out of the room and and you walk out of the room and you go, well, it's literally nothing I can do. And then when my agent found out, the person before that they'd seen was the man that I would have been playing against, and he was 6'4". So on telly would have looked ridiculous. But I didn't know that at the time. And that's the thing, when you go into pitching meetings, you just don't know. They might have gone, well, actually, we've already got something that's similar, that we've already just said yes. There's so many things. But actually, all we can ever do is control ourselves, and control our own motivation and how we're showing up, right?
It's always the small people, isn't it? I'm small. I'm 5'1".
Yeah.
And I feel like I went to an event not so long ago, and I only met these people online, and they were like, oh, you've got tall person energy. I didn't expect you to be so small. I was like, why? Well, I think that's a compliment. But then at the same time, it's not a compliment to small people, which I am. And I thought, it is quite, do people think differently of me when I don't rock up and I'm not 6 foot tall? And they go, oh, she's a bit weak. She's a bit meek because she's so little, I
don't know. I mean, I've had exactly the same thing where people be like, oh, I thought you were. And I'm like, what? And they're like, oh. And then I remember somebody saying, again, it was that sort of weird reverse compliment, but they were like, I've never thought of you as a small person though, Em. And I'm like, I don't know if is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? It's like, this is just the height that I'm at. I'm all right. I'm all right. And again, it's just that thing of going, for me, it's like, then, so how do I make sure that I own the space, and And I've definitely learned, and you and I met doing a speaking gig, we were both speaking at the same conference. And I've learned, for example, partly because of my speaking style, but also because of height, I am never going to stand behind a stupid lectern, because quite often it's like there's the short quiff and the nose, because I don't
That's
wear
what happened
heels,
to me
right?
at that conference. I was behind the lector, and I definitely could not see over very easily. And I was like, I need to stand away from this next time, which
Yeah,
is what I'm
yeah,
doing.
yeah. And sometimes you're just like, you're at this moment and you're like, and then sometimes I put my hand on it and I think it's a bit lower than it is. And then suddenly I'm like, oh no, this is quite high. This looks comfortable. Hi, everybody. But, these, anyway, challenges of small people could be a whole new podcast that you and I could do, of like small but mighty. You've heard it here first. And obviously, if you like that name of it, it's mine and Sophie's, and you do have to pay us a royalty. Thank you very much. Question number 3. How do you play?
Well, first of all, got kids, so I do
Yeah.
play with them. I actually really don't. This is probably quite controversial. I actually really don't like playing with children that much, in terms of sitting there and playing role play games and stuff. I don't mind it, but I'd rather not. But then I do play a lot, because I love to laugh. Like, my friends are all very funny people, and so I suppose play through conversation, play through words, and I like being around funny people. With my kids, I play sometimes because I have to, and that's fine. But then also, I think my play is probably being quite silly, and my husband finds it sometimes too loud and irritating when I'm entertaining the children. So I have a crab dance that I do for my children at tea time when they're being little shits and they need to eat their tea, and I do this crab dance. And it's fun and it's silly and it gets us moving and it gets us dancing, and it will end in a nice. So yeah, so I suppose I'm playful. Do I play? More playful. But saying that, though, most of my friends and family, we love a board game and a Christmas. Like my family, every Christmas, charades is like a must do, and then we've now built up other games as well around that. So actually, I do like to play, probably, now that I've thought about it.
I mean, I think all of those are play. And the thing is, I've identified that adults play in 12 ways, right? And so sometimes when people, they feel the word play, they're like, well, I don't play. And then when I explain what are the 12 ways that people play, they're like, oh. And I remember I just did a talk with you guys, actually. And it was somebody from the talk that I did. And somebody messaged me to go, you have genuinely changed my life by sharing the 12 ways that adults play, because I went home and told my husband I am a player through organising. And she's like, I genuinely loved it, but it's made me have more permission to do more of it, because I now see it as play as opposed to. So we all do play. It's just about, like, what just happened to you. It's sort of taking that moment to go, oh no, and I do that, and I do that, and I do that. But for me, it's really important to consciously know how you play and what makes you happy playing, because then you're more likely to do more of it. And it's for me, for all of us as humans, regardless of where we are in the world, play is the thing that helps us become present. And play is that brief moment of time where you are fully immersed in one activity that will bring you joy. And that can be, especially in the world with how it is right now, we need those moments even more, because then when things are hard, or you've just had a rejection from doing a pitch, that's as true as that rejection piece. And so that for me is why play is really important. Well, one of the main reasons. So yeah, so well done. Play more.
Play more. I will. Thank you.
She's like,
Give me permission.
Yes, I've given you permission. Well, quite often people say to me, oh yeah, it's like, sometimes I've got like a little M on my shoulder. I'm like, that sounds scary. And they're like, go play some more. I'm like, yes, go do it, And it's great that you do the dancing thing. And actually with Dr. Fiona Lovely, yes, she really is called Dr. Lovely, one of my previous guests, in Canada.
That's unfair, isn't it, to get that
I know.
name?
I know. We're like, I've got Stroud. It's like, where does that go? It's not Lovely, is it? It's just Stroud. But she and I were talking about play, and she was talking about how in between seeing clients, and she works a lot in the menopause space, and she's got her podcast is Not My Mother's Menopause, that's got millions of downloads. And she's awesome. But she and I were both talking that for her, play is about dance. And she will go and because dancing, and there's lots of evidence, is the quickest thing that we can do to change our emotional state as human beings.
And you know what? I've seen a post about this morning. This is very strange that you've mentioned this.
Okay.
Around how millennials, me, and you always use dance, and now people don't dance at clubs. I haven't been to a club for a very long time, so I don't know whether this is true or not. But supposedly they don't, like, the younger generation don't dance, and they don't put their hands up. So that's how you can spot a millennial. So when it's like, put your hands up, and people don't put their hands up to the songs. So it's very awkward.
Oh.
And they don't dance.
No. So it's so funny. Obviously, this is kind of going around the world. So there was a thing on my TikTok feed, which obviously now it's all I'm seeing because that's how TikTok works. And yeah, that's right, kids. I might be my 40s and I'm on TikTok. Yeah, because I know I don't really understand it. My son's like, why are you on it? I'm like, I don't know. Anyway, so I was watching this thing and they had people dancing in the 90s. So when I would have been going out clubbing and stuff and DJing and things versus people now. And genuinely, and this was not people that were off their heads on ease in the 90s. This was just people raving, right? Moving their hands, doing all of this. Obviously no phones, because if you had a phone, it was the size of a brick and it didn't work anywhere anyway, right? And then so they had all these people that were loving and just dancing and moving, and it all looks really human and really kind of awesome. And then they cut to this video of people at a rave now. And I kid you not, my phone here, it was a picture of everyone standing like this. Videoing the DJ. So it was from behind the DJ. So it was the same camera angle. And then the DJ at one point, and this was the DJ, as opposed to the DJ going like this and, getting everyone going or whatever. The DJ, when a vocal dropped and it was like, ha, ha, the DJ went. And I was like, something has gone wrong here. What are we doing? So yeah, basically what we're telling everybody, in order to have more impact and feel better in your life, dance more.
Yeah, I mean, how depressing is that?
Really depressing.
That is really depressing that people, but also that people live through their phones. We didn't have that. We didn't live our childhood through a screen. Oh, it is very sad, isn't it?
Which is why I think more and more events, because they're starting, I think so many creatives, and I'm even thinking about this for my show, are starting to get people to put their phones in bags so that they're you can't access it until you leave. So, if you kind of think of Adele, so for all of her shows in Germany, everybody had to put their phones away, and not away in their handbag. They actually were given to security because she was like, I want you to be here. Don't need to film it. There'll be videos that my team will make. And as a result, as opposed to just like, we're just watching Adele, it's like, you're actually going to feel it.
And who looks back at those videos? Like, who actually looks back at the videos of recording content? And also, no one wants to see it on WhatsApp, on Instagram. No one wants to watch the show that you're at through your Instagram recording.
No one cares, and they're always shit. Because you're always from miles away. And at the moment, you're like, oh, this is really intense. This is so. You never watch it back. It does look awful. And you're so, it's like, and I remember, so there's an amazing, amazing artist, and he really is an artist. And his name's Damien Rice. He's one of my sort of favourite musicians.
Oh my gosh, I love Damien Rice.
Right? And
the
he's
OC
only
that
ever
brought
done
Damien Rice to me, I think. The OC, the programme.
Fair. Yeah, fair. And I think he's done 2, maybe 3 albums, right? He's never chased the commercial dream, but he's had it because his music is spectacular. And I went to go and see him live in Croatia. And I took my missus, who's an artist, who is massively not into popular music in any way, shape or form. And I was like, no, he really is an artist. And he did this show in this, what was an old student theatre. So from the sort of, I think it was from like the 1960s, and it had like a raised thing, and it was like a whole sort of 1960s kind of block, and you went in. So not a typical gig venue. It was not the O2, right? And you went in and you sat down, and he came on, and it was magic. And then halfway through, he sang what would probably be known as his most popular single. These phones came up in front of me and then in front of everybody. And there was this one person who kept a phone, but it was kind of where my eye line was. You know, when you're trying to move to not be looking through a phone. And eventually I got to a point and I tapped this person on the shoulder and I'm really proud of myself. And I just went, do you think you could maybe just put your phone down just for the next song? Because I was seeing it in two ways. So I was watching it, but also seeing it through their phone. So it was sort of, and he looked at me and he went, yeah, okay, put it down, which fair play. He put it down. And at the end of the concert, he came to me and he just went, thank you for making me put my phone down, because it was magic.
Yeah.
And it's that thing. And I think we're going to create more spaces where we go, we need to feel this. We don't need to record the videos that no one wants to watch. We just need to feel it. So, yeah, goodness me. Question, go on.
No, I was going to say, it's a really good point. And it's a reminder to myself, put your phone down.
Yeah. Yeah, put the phone down. Leave it in other rooms. You know, you don't need to be on it all of the time. You know, just
100%.
don't have it, because we don't experience life, you know, and then we don't get impacted by nature, by conversations. And yesterday I came back from the city and I was on a train and everybody, bar these two elderly people, were on their phone and me. And who do you think struck up a little conversation? Me and this guy. And he's like, just come into London, haven't been to London for 22 years. And we just came in because we wanted to go to Harrods. And I promised my wife we would go to Harrods. And she was like beaming, and must have been in her mid-70s, maybe. And she just went, yes, we had a tea in Harrods. And that's what they'd come to do. And I just thought, if I'd been on my phone, I wouldn't have had that interaction. And every other person on their phone, no connection, just, you know, and it's just that thing of going, you know, how do these devices have an impact on how we show up? Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Question number 4. You're doing brilliantly, by the way, answering these questions magnificently. What's one action that you've taken in the last year that's really impacted your life?
Well, I was going to say it's saying yes to things, but actually it's less about saying yes to things and more about actively seeking out things that scare me. So as we spoke about earlier before we pressed record, this week I did my first ever keynote, which has been freaking me out I've always wanted to be a public speaker. I've always wanted to be a good public speaker. I earlier this year did some training, which was brilliant. It wasn't the usual, box, move your hands this way and say this and do this. It was much more about finding out who you are, etc. And it was really a great push to go, right, I need to set a goal, which is to do a keynote and to write it where it's delivered word for word, absolutely kind of to the script. And yes, on Tuesday, earlier this week, I delivered that. And so I feel like going, right, you may cringe loads about yourself. You may not be able to watch recordings back of yourself. You may struggle to listen to yourself back on podcasts, for example. But you've got to set a goal, and that goal has got to make you really afraid, and then go for it. So I'm very good at saying yes to things that are completely and utterly out of my comfort zone, and then realizing close to the time that I shouldn't have said yes. So this, you know, this thing that I've done this year is to go, right, you're going to feel really scared to do these things, put yourself out there, and then don't leave it to the last minute to really commit to it and practice it and get it absolutely perfect, etc. So that's what I've done. And I feel like this week I've ticked off a major milestone achievement of going, right, I've now unlocked that next level where I can go, I know that I can confidently deliver something like this. Now go and seek it out even more, because it will have impact on women, it'll have an impact on business, it'll have impact on all those things. So yeah, that's probably the thing this year that I have gone, right, I've got to do that, and I've done it.
Well done. I love that. And I think there's something so important about, you know, setting those things and going, can do it. I'm going to say yes. And I don't really know exactly how I'm going to get there. And it's great, you know, you got a bit of support, which is always important, because sometimes I think when we set ourselves to go and do something that's scary that's out of our normal zone. Because we're adult, we think that we should know how to do it, and we think we should just be able to do it because other people do it as their job or career or whatever. You're like, no, you need to be beginners. You need to go and learn. You need to go and be taught. And I just did something a couple of weekends ago. I went up to Lancashire and did motocross on motorbikes, right? And so standing up and riding through up and down actual streams and over big boulders and through muddy fields and all of this kind of stuff. I am not a motorcyclist. My missus really is, but she's a road motorcyclist. But I used to ride BMXs and mountain bikes. So I sort of had a bit of an advantage because you have to stand up and you have to kind of move and do all of this kind of stuff. Was genuinely shitting myself because I was like, I don't know whether I'm going to like this. This is really scary.
You could actually die, the consequence of going wrong.
There is this edge with motorcycling. There is definitely this edge where you're like, at some point, I did fall off twice, but I was fine. Because you're going slowly. Thank you.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, but it is that thing of you just kind of go, okay, I want to go and do it. But the key thing was we went and did a course with people that could, so you could start at the basics. And what was really interesting was they had a course that was called for absolute beginners, and then they had beginners. Now, because my missus rides motorbikes, and because I've ridden bikes and have ridden motorbikes, just not very much, we went for the beginners, and it was a mistake. We should have gone for the absolute beginners. And that's the thing for me about, it's like, actually, it would have been better to have gone for the absolute beginners because we would have spent longer on the slower skills, which then would have meant when we were going down literally a waterfall on a motorbike, I probably wouldn't have had the thing of like, holy moly, I think I'm going to die. You can do this. Just look where you're going, But it's really important to go and do the things that slightly scare you, because then everything else, it keeps everything in sort of perspective, I guess. Yeah. So I'm very pleased that you did that action, keynote person.
Thank you. But also, I think that all this stuff reflects into other people's lives around you. So I think now, my husband, Rich, is not. He's someone that sits in his comfort zone a lot,
right?
But he has the ability to go way outside of his comfort zone, and he needs often a really hard push to realize that he can do something. But I won't say what it is, but this year he went and he did something that was way out of his comfort zone, and I think it unlocks stuff with other people as well. So even if it's just for yourself and you think, right, I'm doing this for myself, the reality is that has impact on lots of other people, where other people go, oh, I can do that. Even people that you don't know that might, you put something on LinkedIn and somebody goes, oh, she's done it. And I've seen her from 2 years ago when she could barely speak in front of people and was really nervous, to then doing a keynote. I can do it. So the benefit and the impact is so much further than we necessarily know.
Yeah, you're so right. And also it's that thing in the world of social media, you never know who's reading what you put up. You never know. And sometimes it's the silent, you get the lovely people that comment on things. You get the lovely people that will put the thumbs up, but actually it's quite often the silent majority who you're having an impact and you just don't even know. And then occasionally you get like a little message, and, I occasionally get a little message going, I saw this that you did and it made me think, and you just kind of go, awesome. This is cool. And question number 5, how do you take care of yourself?
Well, pre-COVID, so I live quite far away from both sets of family and most of my friends. I've got one couple that we know very well that live locally. Pre-COVID, we used to be away or hosting people every single weekend. And it became, when COVID hit, I think one of the things that me and my husband took out of it is we were like, we're never going back to that life of never taking rests at weekends. And so now we ideally a maximum of one big social thing per month. And then the other 3, we are very good at being like, right. So for example, this morning we were talking about, right, what amazing food are we going to have this weekend? Like that is literally what our life is centered around. Is
nice.
What good food can we make together? And we do everything together. Nice. I think that's something that's kept our marriage really solid, is that every night we meet in the kitchen, and after putting the kids to bed and sorting everything out, and we talk and we cook together. Or, I mean, my husband is the good cook. I stir and help. But
also needed.
Sous chefs are so needed. They are so important, and that's what I am. I am the sous. And I stir really well. So, I am smashing
if there was another, if everything went wrong, and I know it won't do with everything you're doing with Motherboard. It's like, hi, you might know me as Sophie, the stirrer. That's professional stirrer. You've got soup. I am there.
Ways.
I know.
I'm stirring the literal pot, not not the other pot.
Not in the negative way. Yes, yeah. So brackets in the good way.
Exactly.
Sophie,
Sophie the stirrer in the good way. So I would say that we look after ourselves, and I look after myself very much in terms of giving myself social space, because my job and my work week is very much filled with having lots of energy, lots of adrenaline, especially if I'm doing any public speaking, or it's always, I'm always giving energy out. And so the weekend I've learned that the self-care is to not give too much energy out socially, and to just do what I like to do, which is be with my family, chill, cook some incredible food, watch some Netflix, and not feel guilty about seeing everyone else doing all these, going out for dinners and going out and doing all this stuff. Like, that doesn't actually necessarily make me happy at this stage of my life. So recognizing that and living for what I want definitely is self-care. Also, at the moment, I've been getting a massage a month, and that has been the best thing, but it's really embarrassing because every time I fall asleep and I end up waking myself up snoring. And last time I went to, I must have started to doze off, and I leant into the masseuse's hand, and she knocked my head back to the middle. And I was like, this is important self-care, Yeah. So I do stuff. That's I send to myself a little bit more to refill my cup.
Good.
And then I can give more
good. And I massively applaud you for both of those things. I remember with one of my ex-partners, she was a massage therapist amongst being a sports physio and things like that. And she always said to me, because I was a bit like, massages are a bit of a luxury. And she said to me, she's like, but you've got a car, right? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, do you get it serviced? I was like, yeah. And she went, why do you get it serviced? Well, so it doesn't break down. And she's like, so you will do that on a mechanical car, but you're not doing it for yourself. And that was the moment where, like you, every 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, I get a massage, because it's that thing, it keeps us going. So yeah. And then final question of the podcast. What have you been thinking about in the last couple of days? So what's been mooching in Sophie's brilliant brain?
Well, a few things. First of all, that orange man across the pond has been on my mind, but we don't need to talk about him. All that, and obviously we don't want to go into politics. I've also been thinking about how I am able to walk down the stairs and sit down on the toilet without being in pain, because I've started a new fitness class. That has genuinely been on my mind. I'm like,
good work.
I'm getting better at this. I'm getting better.
Yeah. I am so there with you.
But more importantly, I know that I've mentioned this before about this keynote, and I don't want to bang on about the same old thing, but I feel like there's been a lot of energy draining stuff happening through business life, through investment, through, lots of things going on, that has meant that I haven't felt energized for quite a while. Everything's a bit slower. I think I need a holiday. I haven't had a holiday since August. Roll on Christmas. But this week, going to this conference, it was the computing conference, I left feeling really energized, and I've realized that I need sometimes something that's going to fill my cup up, that is adrenaline inducing. I think I might actually secretly be a bit of an adrenaline junkie, and I hadn't realized it before, that I need that something or other to boost me, and to feel like in the last couple of days I've been so much more proactive in speaking to people and getting back to people quicker and just everything just being a bit more energetic and a bit quicker. So yeah, I'm reflecting on that and thinking, well, what is it about, what is it beyond work as well that's going to give me some form of adrenaline and filling up feeling.
Yeah.
So yeah, I need to work out what that is.
I can highly recommend going up to Lancashire and riding a motorbike down the thing. There's nothing like that to making sure that you feel like you're alive.
I mean, just going back to my parents, that's one thing that my parents said that I could never do. Never ride a motorbike. Dad's an A&E doctor or a retired one. So that was off the list. So unfortunately, I need some more.
Can't do that one. It's all right.
Can't do that one.
I'll send you a list of other things, which are slightly less with risk of death and everything like this. And I genuinely could talk to you for hours. But I'm aware of your time and, of course, my good listeners' time. And how do people find you, your awesome work? Where should they go on the interweb?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the one.
Okay.
I live on LinkedIn. So Sophie Creese, quite easy to find. My surname's quite unusual. CRESE. And yeah, message me there. But also heyflow.co.uk and motherboardmovement.co.uk is where you can find out about the 2 organisations that I founded.
Awesome. And I knew it was going to be a joy, and it has been. Thank you so much, lovely one, for coming on the Comic Coach podcast with me, Stroud. It's been brilliant. Thank you ever so much.
It's been so wonderful. Thank you so much.
I love Sophie. I hope you really enjoyed that, because I properly enjoyed that. And we were just talking, just as we were saying goodbye to each other, there's this whole thing, isn't there, of how do we make sure that we keep a little bit of perspective, right? How do we make sure that we try and find the joy and try and find the light, even in the things that are really serious? And as you would have picked up on, we recorded this the day after Trump has been elected as president of the United States. And interestingly, one of my feeds that I follow on Insta is one of the late night talk show hosts. And already, he was finding some humor in it. He was finding the moments, the looks, even though, politically that might not be where he's aligned to and things like that. And at the moment, it feels there are so many really important things. There are so many important causes, so many important shifts, so many awesome things that are occurring. Like, please do check out Sophie and her work, because what she's doing is super important. And she really will change how women in the workplace are perceived, how we're working, and all of these things. And I really, truly believe that she will do that. And within that, it's also so important that with all of these causes, with all of these things where there's positive energy going into it, it's so important that we amplify each other. And what I mean by that is the connections that we can make with different people. And how do we really support one another in what it is that we're doing? It doesn't have to be that you're a big entrepreneur setting up a movement, running stuff like that. It doesn't have to be that at all. It can be those tiny little moments of conversation like I had with the guy on the train yesterday. Because I know as I got up, they both smiled at me and they were like, have a really good day. And I know that tiny little conversation shifted something for them. It's a little moment, a beat in their life. But I paid attention and I asked somebody how they were and what they've been up to. So I wonder if you're listening to this, or if you're watching this, what's one thing that you could do that could have a positive impact on somebody else that you know? And if you're in a place where perhaps life is a bit tough, or you're really challenging, yourself, and things are sad, and let's face it, the world is in a bit of a crazy place at the moment. If you don't have the energy to go and do that for someone else, that's okay. So then I just ask you, what's the one thing that you could do for yourself that would positively impact you? And if you're in a lucky enough position where you could go and get a massage like Sophie and I do, if you're lucky enough to be able just to go to your favourite coffee shop and just really sit and enjoy that coffee with no distractions, I wonder what one thing you could do that will positively impact you. Because if it impacts you, it will have that ripple effect. And that, dear friends, that is how we change the world. We focus on what we can be in charge of, and the stuff we can't be in charge of, we try and find the light. We try and find the joy, because it's always there. It's one of my mentors. She said something to me and it has always stayed in my head. It's like, even when it's really grey, like it is today here in London, and a bit meh, the sun is still shining. It's just you can't see it. But you just have to remember the sun is still shining. So there you go, another episode of the Comic Coach podcast with me, Em Stroud. As ever, it has been lovely having you with me, and do please like and share it and tell other people about this, my new podcast, the Comic Coach podcast. And it's been a joy to have you all, and I'll catch up with you next week. Take good care. Bye for now.